Check out monorail.com, America's affordable investment app, made for conservatives who want to keep their hard-earned money with companies that share their values. Download the Monorail app today. Join Monorail.
Rocking around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party hop. Mistletoe hung where you can see every couple tries to stop. Rocking
All right,
around
welcome to the Dennis
the
Prager
Christmas
Show. I'm
tree,
your guest,
let
host
the
Carl
Christmas
Jackson,
spirit
sitting in for Dennis Prager. It's such an honor to be back. Always an honor to sit in for Dennis. I want to thank Sean McConnell that's in my ear. Lou has got my back. Listen, all the people that help with Alan Estrin, obviously, Dennis Prager's producer. I just want to thank him for giving me the opportunity to come back. I'm not sure who's on the phones, but all right, Suzette, thank you so much for being in. Guys, I got a lot to talk to you about today, and I think the last time that I was in for Dennis Prager, I posed either a statement or a question that I thought or at least at one point in time when I was in for Dennis Prager, that I thought the Democrat Party was an existential threat to America. And I still believe that today. I believe that the Democrat Party and the left are synonymous. I believe they're one and the same. Unfortunately, the left has gone so far left, and I don't see anyone in the Democrat Party that has moved to stop them, but that I do believe they are synonymous. I do believe they're one and the same. I don't think there's a major difference between a liberal or a leftist at this point. I mean, perhaps how they behave in the home, perhaps some of their values in the home, but publicly, and as far as public discourse is concerned, as far as politics are concerned, I simply don't see that much difference. Guys, I want to talk to you. One of my big things is I can't stand when people bash the Founding Fathers. I can't stand despite the fact, listen, every man has his flaws. Every Founding Father, just like you and I, have our flaws, no doubt about it. But I still believe that they have created the best country that God has ever given man. And one of the things that I'd like to do in this show, in this hour, and perhaps even going into the next hour, I'm going to talk to you about how the Republican Party, to some extent, has become. Guys, you gotta understand where I'm coming from. I hate to say this because I don't want to be hyperbolic. I do not want to be hyperbolic, but I think the Republican Party has become so weak that they too have become an existential threat to America. Now, the good news is, because people like us exist, because Dennis Prager listeners exist, we can call our congressmen, we can call our senators, we can get involved in politics, and we can fight like heck and hopefully persuade Republicans to do the job that they were elected to do. But I think it's an uphill battle, and I don't want to lie to you about this. And so oftentimes I read through columns and I spend so much time analyzing the left and getting frustrated about what the left is doing. But I must admit, at times, I don't think I spend enough time saying, wait a minute. There is a party that exists that can stop them. And oftentimes we fall flat. Maybe today will be a little bit of tough love. I'm not exactly sure. I got to be honest with you. I was not as if I'm not honest with you, but I was going through an array of material that I intended to talk about today. And then all of a sudden, I just wasn't feeling it. Sometimes this happens in radio because so many issues have popped up since. And then I just started coming back to, Carl, what are the bigger issues? Let me leave this quote with you. You guys are familiar with it. Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. I want that to linger in your mind. Give me liberty or give me death. Another quote, all it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to stand by and do nothing. So I want you to just, I want those to stand still, if you will, in your mind as we go through today's show. Now, another thing that I'm big on, Sean McConnell knows this, I hate fake racism. I hate fake oppression that the media likes to pretend exists when it doesn't. I believe that racism in America is dead, except within the Democrat Party. I do believe that racism, for the most part, now I'm not naive, I'm not stupid. I understand that racism does exist in that there are some racist people, but racism, systemic racism, doesn't exist in America except within the Democrat Party. Oh, you don't believe me? Guys, the fake oppression that has happened with Gavin Newsom declaring that he's going to give people literally $223,000 and $223,200 for reparations is insane. I want to preface today's show with this before we get into what's happening in China. Because what's happening in China, guys, I'm here to tell you it exists in America. It exists in America. And the only people that can stop it besides us are the Republicans that we elect. But hopefully I can tie this together where it makes sense for you. Gavin Newsom's reparations, hat tip to the Daily Mail. You can still get good news, relevant news, factual news in the UK about the United States. It's getting a little harder to get it inside of the United States unless you go to conservative outlets. But Gavin Newsom's reparations committee will recommend handing out $223,000, $200,000 per person to all descendants of slaves in California for, quote, housing discrimination at a cost of $559 billion. This is the nation's biggest restitution effort ever. Guys, I can't stand this, and I want to get into why as we talk about fake oppression, and then we're going to take a trip to China to talk about real oppression, and then we'll come back to America to talk about the oppression that's beginning to happen here in the surveillance state that is becoming more and more and more evident. When we see what Elon Musk is doing, what Elon Musk has unveiled, we see what Apple's Tim Cook is doing. Don't believe for an instant, all right, that Tim Cook would not side with lefties to censor Twitter. I don't believe it for an instant. Republicans are going to have to fight. They're going to have to do something. So a task force was set up in California to make proposals for slavery reparations. Guys, let me ask you, do you know any slaves? Do you know any slaves? I mean, unless you go to the Middle East, unless you go to China, maybe humans that are being trafficked right here in the United States, sadly, sex trafficked. Do you know any slaves? Maybe there's some that exist at our southern border. We'll get into that as well. Do you know any slaves? See, what I can't stand about fake oppression, specifically that the left imposes upon us, this idea that America is systemically racist. What I cannot stand about it is that it causes some people, it causes some Americans, I won't say who, black people, to never live up to their potential. And it's really offensive to me. It's upsetting to me. But I think perhaps even more upsetting to me is that I happen to belong to a political party, not because I agree with everything, but they most closely align with my values, that won't do anything about it or won't say anything about it. Doggone it, we are the party of Abraham Lincoln. We are the anti-KKK party. We are the civil rights party. We are the capitalistic party. We are the entrepreneurial party. We are the party of true diversity in thought and in color. Why don't we talk about it? Why don't we brag about it, as a matter of fact? Why is it that I have to search for headlines, and we'll get into the second hour. We'll get into this in a second hour. Why is it that I have to search headlines and find that my Republican Party, the party of liberty and freedom, is a party that I have to be concerned with, given the fact that we're in the middle of an economic freaking crisis, that they're considering an omnibus bill to take us through the entire next year? Why is it that I have to read the headlines to find out that my party is hurting me and hurting you? It makes no sense to me whatsoever. All it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to stand and do nothing. Republican Party, we need you to stand. We need you to talk about Twitter. We need you to talk about Elon Musk. We need you to talk about free speech. We need you to talk about the sex trafficking at the border. We need you to show up in the culture war. Otherwise, we are going to lose this country. More when we get back. Carl Jackson in for Dennis Prager.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
History repeats itself, and we're seeing that play out with inflation. When Jimmy Carter took office in the late 70s, gold sold for $140 an ounce. By 1980, the price of gold topped out at $870 an ounce. If today's market performs like it did when Carter was in office, the price of gold could skyrocket from $1,800 an ounce to $9,300 an ounce. This is Dennis Prager for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Don't miss out on a great opportunity to purchase precious metals while the prices are still stable. If history repeats itself, we'll see a run on gold, silver, and platinum that will certainly drive up prices. Be smart and buy now, as I am. At AmFed, you're dealing with specialists who provide you with personalized attention, honest information, and sound advice. You'll never be pressured into buying outrageously priced so-called collectible coins or anything that you don't need. Take advantage of today's prices. AmFed Coin and Bullion, 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com.
Call on you, my friend. I call on you, my friend. I call on you, my friend.
Hey folks, Dennis Prager here, one of my favorite people in America. You know I don't exaggerate when I say that. I don't say it often. It's Carl Jackson. This man is as good as he is intelligent, and he's as deep as he is alive. We're lucky to have him. I'm lucky that he's sitting in for me. I'll see you Monday, but now, here's Carl Jackson.
Let me say something real quick about Dennis Prager. Honestly, I'm hearing this audio for the first time, the same time that you guys are hearing it. I can't tell you how much I admire that man. He is one of my favorite people inside of the United States, definitely. And I believe that he is saving America. I sincerely believe that, so I would just want to make that emphatically clear. And he is a good and decent man, full of wisdom and that loves God. You cannot beat that with a bat. And his wife, Sue, is equally amazing. So anyway, I just want to take the time again real quick to just say thank you to Dennis Prager. It's an honor and a privilege always to be behind his microphone, and sometimes intimidating if I'm being completely honest. But it is always an honor and a blessing. And callers, don't go anywhere. I see you out there. I promise I will get to you if you will hang on with me, Mike, Tom, Glenn, Maria. But I need to get through some of the material that I have in front of me before I'm going to get to some audio shortly. I want you to understand what authoritarianship sounds like. I want you to understand what people that are actually suppressed. I want you to understand what it sounds like. So we're going to get to some audio shortly, and I'm going to brace you. If you've not heard this audio of people dying in China because of their zero COVID lockdowns, being burned alive, I want you to understand that that's what's coming. But before I get to that, can I get back to my fake oppression, which is what I absolutely hate and I absolutely despise, because we don't take advantage of the God-given freedoms that are allotted here in America when we buy into the left's nonsense that we're oppressed. We are not oppressed in America. We're freaking spoiled. We're spoiled. Now, I got to be honest with you. I'm not ashamed of it. I look at my citizenship as an American as a duty, as a responsibility to spread freedom and to spread goodness, not just here in the United States, but around the globe. That's our responsibility. The Bible teaches us, to whom much is given, much is required. As Americans, we have a responsibility not to buy into this fake racism crap, not to buy into this fake oppression crap, and to live the lives that God has destined us to live. That is our duty. And anyone that gets in our way, anyone that stands in the way of our purpose, in my opinion, is an enemy of freedom. And that includes some of those in the Republican Party. And again, I'll get into it in the second hour. You guys can tell I'm probably chomping at the bit, as they say, to get into what the Republican Party has been doing with this omnibus. And beyond that, this Respect for Marriage Act, or this Disrespect for Marriage Act. Do you guys understand? This isn't just about same-sex marriages and heterosexual marriage. This is a fundamental undermining of our Constitution, of our religious liberties inside of this United States, and federalism. And 12 Republicans played a part in destroying and undermining our Constitution. Christians, Jews, all of you who wanted to stay out of the political fight, and Christmas is coming up, Hanukkah is coming up, and you just wanted to sit home alone and you just wanted to enjoy yourself, get ready for persecution like you've not seen. We've seen and we've heard the cases of ADF defending people. Hey, we might be one of their customers, one of their clients soon. Make sure you donate to them. You may need to use them soon, because stuff is going to get bad in America, not just because we have a left-wing party that hates America, but unfortunately, by and large, not all, but by and large, we have a Republican Party that is freaking absent when it comes to the issues of freedom. Forgive my passion today. Forgive me if I sound like I'm angry, because I am. I am. I hate to come in and be the angry black man, but that's what I am today, because I feel like a man that's losing my country needlessly. And it's up to us to fight. It's up to us to fight. Sometimes I get lose track of what I'm doing. Let me get back to this issue with these reparation payments. Again, a task force was set up in California to make proposals for slavery reparations. Descendants of slaves in California could receive $223,000, $200 each. That would total, again, $569 billion, more than the entire state expenditure of California in 2021. Nearly 6.5% of California residents, 2.5 million, identify as black or African American. If I'm white, I'm identifying black to get on that gravy train. You know what I'm saying? A focus, because you can do that nowadays. You can identify as anything you want, and that makes it so, right? A focus of the task force has involved reimbursing for, quote, housing discrimination. The task force was formed due to a bill signed by Governor Gavin Newsom in 2020. A reparations committee in California has suggested that the descendants of slaves in the state could be compensated $23,200 each for housing discrimination. Sean, how much time do we have before the break? Guys, I want you to hear this audio. I want you to hear what real oppression sounds like. I warned you about this audio, so if you're not ready for it, turn it down. I don't like to hear it, but we need to hear it. Go ahead and roll it, por favor, Sean. That's what it sounds like when you're being burned alive. That's what it sounds like when you're being burned to death and you realize that there's no escape, that you have a dictatorial regime, a Chinese Communist Party, if you will, that will not allow you to escape your own housing so that you can survive. And as a matter of fact, you have people, first responders, if you will, I don't know what they call them in China, that can't even get in because of the barricades that exist due to zero COVID policies. And you're certainly not going to climb over the fence, because on top of the fence lies these, they're not even barbed wire. To say that they're barbed wire would be kind, but lies these knives that stand erect at the top of the fence. That's oppression. That's oppression. There is no such freaking thing, hardly, of oppression inside of the United States. And we need a party that will defend us and that will go on offense to explain this. We need some fighters. This is Carl Jackson in for Dennis Prager. We'll be right back.
The late co-founder of Microsoft, Paul Allen, sold his art collection for the record-breaking sum of $1.6 billion. You might ask, what does this have to do with you? While the markets for other investments are cratering, art is reaching record prices. So why hasn't your financial advisor told you about art? It's simple. They don't have access. There's a way to access this potentially lucrative market safely and for a fraction of the price. It's called Masterworks. They qualify their paintings with the SEC so you have the highest level of protection while you invest. Masterworks has been delivering real results to real Americans just like you. Like early last month, they handed investors a 17.8% net return. As a result, Masterworks even has a wait list, but you can skip it at masterworks.art/Dennis. masterworks.art/Dennis. See important Reg A disclosures at masterworks.com/CD. Anyone who wants to protect America should also want to protect Israel. Ambassador Robert O'Brien, former national security advisor in the Trump administration, explains exactly why. See the new video at prageru.com where we teach what should be taught.
Welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for Dennis Prager. Guys, will you follow me on social media? You can find me at The Carl Jackson Show. And if you would, I'd be honored if you would subscribe to my podcast. You can go to SalemPodcastNetwork.com, TheCarlJacksonShow.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. I really would appreciate it. And, guys, I'm going to ask you to give and to donate to PragerU. It's not something that they asked me to do today, but I tell you, PragerU makes me a whole lot smarter, wiser, and more patriotic, to be honest with you. I love PragerU, and you should too. If you have a bunch of rebellious kids, particularly if they've been indoctrinated at school or college or their college or university, make sure they check out some PragerU videos and just prick them. Ask them some nice questions after they watch the video. Bribe them if you have to, if they haven't seen them. I guarantee you critical thinking will start to, at least I would hope, start to exude from their brains. All right, so please subscribe to PragerU. Also, guys, we're coming up on the Christmas season, so I do want to talk to you about Angel Tree. As we get ready to head into the weekend, I'd like to remind you about Dennis's annual campaign to help children with either a mom or dad in prison to experience the joy of a special Christmas, thanks to the awesome volunteers at Prison Fellowship's Angel Tree program. Pastor Stephen Wilson of Gateway Church in the Dallas area helps oversee the volunteer activities at his church on behalf of Angel Tree.
Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up here. This subject is near and dear to my heart. I love Angel Tree. Donations go beyond the walls of a prison to reach the family. And that's the heart of Angel Tree, is those kids that are out there who are away from their parents during this time. This is a connection point for them to come together and just feel the heart and the love of their parent that's incarcerated.
All over America, including where you live, Angel Tree volunteers are racing the calendar to use your donations and connect incarcerated parents with Angel Tree staff who help arrange for delivery of a Christmas gift, a Bible, and a personalized message from their parent in prison to bless children on December 25th. And it all starts when you go to DennisPrager.com, click on the Angel Tree banner to make your tax-deductible donation. But the blessings can only happen if you step up and support Dennis's annual Angel Tree campaign with your donation of $25 to support one prisoner's child or $50 to bless two kids. You do the math and see how many kids you can help, but please act today. There are only 24 days left until Christmas. Just go to DennisPrager.com, click on the Angel Tree banner to donate. $125 will bless 5 children, or you can sponsor any number of kids for one-time contribution or for a one-time contribution of just $25. You can call right now to phone in a gift. You can call 888, that is 888-206-2801. That's 888-206-2801. Or just go to DennisPrager.com and click on the Angel Tree banner. With only 24 days until Christmas is here, please don't wait. Do it today. And callers, again, I see you out there. I promise I will get to you. Mike, Tom, Glenn, Maria, Mark, don't go anywhere. If you want to call into the program, you can. I am going to get to as many calls as possible. I'm going to weave in. Listen, this show is going to be like a running show. Typically what has to happen, or what you would like to happen, but I'm a little more ghetto fabulous and a little ADD, so it doesn't always work like that for me. Sean can attest to that, I think. But each hour you want a different topic, that really works well in radio and podcasting. It really works well. I'm gonna be talking to you about the overarching thing, basically, that if Republicans fail to do something, America is lost. And when I say do something, I don't mean the typical old school it's all about economics. It's all about low tax cuts. No, that's not enough. We're in a culture war. We're in a ballot war. Is another war that we're in. If we don't do something about it, if we don't beat the left at their game, America is lost and perhaps gone forever. And that's where we stand today. I got something that I want to get to a little later, how a secret Google geofence warrant helped catch the Capitol riot mob. You remember they clowned, the media did. They mocked True the Vote. They mocked Dinesh D'Souza in his book, in their documentary, 2,000 Mules. Wait a minute. We got this Wired, which is a left-wing publication that talks about this geofence warranting that the DOJ does, that the FBI has done. And they did it to J6 mostly peaceful protesters. So if you don't think the surveillance state exists in the United States of America, you are sorely wrong.
You all have helped build MyPillow into the incredible company it is today, and have trusted in Mike Lindell to give you a great night's sleep. On top of the special available to my listeners on the Percale and Giza Dream bed sheets, marked down as low as $29.98, Mike is now changing the game with his 3-piece towel set. This set is made with USA cotton, making it extremely absorbent, yet still providing the soft feel you look for in a towel. This set comes with 1 bath, 1 hand towel, and 1 washcloth, typically retailing for $49.99. For a limited time, you can get this 3-piece towel set for the low price of $19.98 with the promo code Prager. Don't miss out on these extraordinary offers. There's a limited supply, so be sure to order now. 800-761-6302. Use the promo code Prager, or go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and use the promo code Prager.
Hang all the mistletoe, I'm gonna get to know you better.
Welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for Dennis Prager. The number to call in, 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Again, thank you, Dennis Prager and Sue, for the opportunity. Alan Estrin for giving me another opportunity to sit behind this microphone. You can check out my podcast at SalemPodcastNetwork.com, TheCarlJacksonShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast. Also, follow me on social media, please. The Carl Jackson Show is where you can find me, wherever you may be on social media. I would certainly appreciate it. All right, so we're talking about this growing surveillance state in the United States, or actually we'll get to that. But I want to take you back to China. And callers, again, don't go anywhere. Glenn, I see you out there. Maria, I'll get to you shortly. Mark, Stephanie, Art, Sam, I will try to get to as many of you as possible. I will get to you guys as soon as I can. So China's paper revolution could be the beginning of the end for Xi Jinping. This, according to a column at The Federalist by a lady by the name of Helen Riley. And you have to understand what's happening in China. People, we talk about oppression here, and when we talk about oppression within the United States, unless you're talking about people that are literally trafficked, trafficked as sex slaves or what have you, there's no real oppression in the United States. So that's why these college campuses and universities have to make up all of these fake these fake, I mean, like white privilege and all this type of nonsense. They have to make this stuff up. We're so blessed. They don't know where to go except to repeat history. It's absolutely astonishing to me, but this is exactly what the left is doing. So a lot of these people in China are risking their personal safety and even their lives. Residents in multiple cities, as a matter of fact, have began standing up to Xi Jinping. Guys, this is dangerous. This isn't like protesting here in the United States. Well, at least it wasn't until J6 occurred, where, there was no major consequences. These people simply speak out, and their lives could be lost or they could be in prison. Their livelihood, it's insane. So over the weekend, according to the Federalist, the protesters came out. They wanted an end to this draconian zero COVID lockdown policies. Now, I know this has been in the news, but guys, I got to tell you, I don't know why this isn't a story that we're talking about on the daily, simply because it is coming to America. As a matter of fact, I take that back. I messed up. It's here in America. It's not here to this degree or to this level, but it does exist in America. The protests there quickly spread nationwide. People hadn't seen anything like this, but they are expressing their dissatisfaction with Xi Jinping. I was reading quotes of people that were literally speaking out, and I won't get into the story. There was a article that I read literally in the middle of the night that was very lengthy, where a young journalist, actually she wasn't from China, but she was there for some reason. I can't recall where she was from, but she was recording some of the protesters and taking down quotes and some of the things that they were expressing, young men and women that were admittedly afraid to say what they were about to say. Not that they were even yelling at the time, but just how freeing it felt to be able to get it off their chest. They had been oppressed for so long, but they were scared to say anything about Xi Jinping. Now, that's real bravery, because that could mean death for these people, college students. It's absolutely amazing what we see happening in China, and yet our media isn't playing it up. Joe Biden and the Democrat Party isn't talking about it because they agree with it. Let's be honest. This is the America that we live in today. We live in an America where the Democrat Party is in love with authoritarianism. We'll talk about what's going on with Elon Musk, but just think about what's happening. Anti-government movements known as color revolutions and Z's and the CCPs are Xi Jinping's biggest fear, according to the article. Xi's most prominent concern has always been that a color revolution, this is a term that describes an anti-government movement, would begin or take place in China and topple his government. This is completely daunting to Xi Jinping as he sees it. Since coming into power in late 2012, he has not seen an uprising like this. He's just gone too far with COVID. Since he's come into power, he's developed this huge high surveillance state that exists currently in China. You can't even go places without owning a phone because they want to know exactly where you are. They want to be able to track you. As a matter of fact, police officers there were literally taking the phones of protesters to see if they had been on apps that are forbidden, Twitter and a couple of others that they mentioned there, or at least the equivalents thereof in China. But we're not too far off right here in America. Now, this guy needs to control 1.4 billion people, so you can bet your bottom dollar that he is going to suppress them with a very heavy hand. These people are brave. These people are brave. He's ruled for 10 years now with an iron fist. And what's ironic there in China is they are allowed, listen to this. This is fascinating. I didn't realize this. They are allowed to protest in China. If they can protest about things that are trivial that the government is never going to do anything about, frankly. So they can complain and they can protest all they want about the economy and such things like that. They can complain and they can protest about the environment. You know, I guess they want to be green out in China, especially since they pollute so badly there. So they can protest about that all day long. Now, here's the trick, though. They have to protest locally. So they can talk about their local authorities. They can talk about the local leadership, local politicians, if you will, but they cannot talk about the CCP or Xi Jinping. Otherwise, it could be a prison sentence or even a death warrant. But they can protest still, these people, so that's why this is so huge. China hasn't seen anything like this since at least 1989 with the Tiananmen Square deal. And frankly, this, many are saying, is even bigger. And Xi Jinping has no one to blame with himself with this these zero COVID lockdown policies. You guys heard the videos of the deadly fire that spread in Xinjiang or Xinjiang. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Xinjiang. But this is a very region where you have the Uyghur Muslim slaves that exist, and they are being killed through genocide. They are being killed through genocide. Now, Carl, why are you talking about this? Guys, I'm talking about this because we don't want to believe it. But this, the roots of it, the beginnings of it, exist in America. Carl, how can you be so outlandish? How can you say such a thing? Have you checked on how the Democrat Party feels about babies lately? You know, it's a funny thing. You know what happens when you come in contact with babies or when you come in contact with puppies? And I literally, I can't even remember where I was. But there are two separate situations that I recall where like some buff dude came up to somebody that had a puppy. Obviously, he must have been a dog lover. And this buff, intimidating looking dude was just like, oh my God. You know, just started to sound like a lady. It was weird. But the same thing is true for babies. Wherever you go, and you know, I'm not gonna lie. Back in the day when I was a single father, I used to take my daughter around a stroll for a mall and try to pick up some honey dips. It was amazing. It was amazing what babies would do. It was like a magnet. It was like a magnet for women. It was the weirdest thing. Listen, I'm an imperfect person. I admit it. Those days are over. Trust me. But my daughter's grown now. No, but it was absolutely amazing. But consider people that detest babies, that detest life. If you don't think they'll do this to you, you got to be crazy. Are you more cute and cuddly and innocent than a little baby? Don't you guys like picking up those little fat little babies with their fat arms and their little pot bellies and thick legs and just squeezing them? Everybody loves a baby. Everybody loves puppies. But the left doesn't like babies. You think they care about you? You don't think this would come here? Of course it'll come here. We're dealing with some sick, evil, and twisted people within the Democrat Party. And unfortunately, our team is not standing up for us and speaking out enough. Guys, this has to change. This has to change, or we're going to lose this country. We've got to do everything we can to be involved in the political process, calling our senators and congressmen and protesting. But man, we've got to put some fire underneath these people's feet, or we're in trouble. We'll be back. Carl Jackson in for Dennis Prager.
And this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for me. Tell you I ain't lying.
Welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for Dennis Prager. The number to call in, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Again, that number is 1-8-PRAGER-776. Okay, real quick before I go back to the calls, Glenn, Maria, I will get to you shortly. Mark, I see you out there. Stephanie and Art, I will get to you as soon as I possibly can. So you don't think that this can happen. You don't think that this surveillance state can happen inside of the United States. Again, hat tip, Wired, left-wing publication, how secret Google geofence warrant helped catch the Capitol riot mob. But first, let's continue to get you primed so that you understand exactly what's been happening in China, while the media, by and large, has been ignoring this. See, what's happening in China is a build-up. This isn't the first, this isn't protesters' first rendezvous. This is just the time where, this is the first time, apparently, where there's been mass protests that are willing to speak out against Xi Jinping and to do so publicly. I mean, predictably. and inevitably at their own demise. Do you understand that? Man, the freedoms that we have in America, God Almighty, forgive us for being so lackadaisical, for being so ungrateful when it comes to the blessings of liberty that have been handed to us, that have literally been handed to us. And you got a bunch of ingrates on the left that just want to throw it away, or a bunch of weaklings within the Republican Party. I'm telling you, Republican weakness is an existential threat. I'm just going to say it. Republican weakness is an existential threat to the United States of America. You can't have people that are supposedly on our side, or those that stand with the Constitution, that are willing to undermine not just the institution of marriage, but the Constitution itself, the First Amendment and religious liberty. And I'm talking about what I'm calling the Disrespect for Marriage Act. It goes far beyond marriage. As a matter of fact, take marriage out of it for just a second and just think about the liberties that are being undermined by the Republican and the Democrat Party. What? No religious liberty inside of the United States? You mean this country that was built on, dare I say it, Judeo-Christian values? And Republicans are saying, not so important. What? What? If your value and your rights don't come from God, where do they come from? Perhaps Xi Jinping? Joe Biden? This is very scary where we find ourselves, because we find ourselves in a place, again, where a party hates America, bunch of spoiled brats that they are, and a party in the Republican Party that doesn't appreciate it. We find ourselves in a very, very precarious position in the United States. You like that? Like how I use that word, Sean? Precarious? I was trying to live up to Dennis Prager's standards. But anyway, all right, so listen to this. This was a buildup. The fire in Xinjiang or Zhang or however you pronounce it, that was the icing on the cake, so to speak. But there's been several tragedies that have been unspoken of or memory hold that's taken place in China. In January, a woman who was 8 months pregnant in Xi'an lost her baby after local hospitals refused to treat her because her COVID test had expired by a few hours. Imagine, ladies, you're out there, you're getting ready to give birth to your son or to your daughter. It's a proud moment for you. This pandemic hits and lockdowns exist, and you go to the hospital. No big deal. They're going to deliver your baby anyway if you're in the United States, or at least you would hope, right? You're in the United States, you're going to deliver it. But this whole time, this entire time, this 9 months, you've been sitting there, you've been rubbing your belly, and you've been looking forward to this creation that's going to come out of your body for an entire 9 months, and you can't wait. And you go and you take this COVID test, and because your COVID test expires by 3 hours, Lord knows you need help delivering your child. The doctor says, sorry, can't do it. Can't do it. Your baby dies. You've been sitting there for 9 months, looking forward to bringing a child into a world, a gift from God into the world, and your government, now, obviously it's the healthcare industry, that's the government in China, says, no, your baby dies. During Shanghai lockdowns between March and April, children as young as newborns were taken away from their parents and committed to poorly run and filthy government daycare facilities. Imagine being a parent and not knowing where the heck the Chinese Communist Party, that has no problem killing people, takes your kid. Residents also experienced severe food shortages, unheard of since the Great Chinese Famine in 1959 through 1961. Last month, a woman in Beijing, the capital of China, was welded into her apartment for days. She ended up jumping to her death. From her apartment building, her daughter, her daughter apparently shared audio of her mother banging on the gate and begging community workers to unseal her mother's door and to help her. Didn't happen. Her mother went nuts. Her mother killed herself. As a direct result of zero COVID policies, the Chinese people have experienced many pent-up fears, frustrations, and furies over the last 3 years that are just untenable. They're afraid that any tragedies that they talk about or discuss, there will be retribution of their families on their families if they even speak a word. So do you understand when you have protesters talking to reporters inside of China and they're telling them they're sick and tired of what they have to endure under Xi Jinping's rule? Man, that's brave. That's right. They hold up these papers and protest, these blank papers and protest, because all they can say is nothing. Inside of the United States, we're blessed and privileged. We can read virtually anything we want, unless you're on some of these social media sites, which we'll get into shortly. But they have to be silent in their protests to the blank paper, because this is all they can say to a government that does not care about life. And it's coming here to the U.S. We'll be back. All right, welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. Guys, as we get ready to head into the weekend, I'd like to remind you about Dennis Prager's annual campaign to help children with either a mom or a dad that's in prison to experience the joy of a special Christmas, thanks to the awesome volunteers at Prison Fellowship's Angel Tree program. Pastor Steve Wilson of Gateway Church in the Dallas area helps oversees the volunteer activities at his church on behalf of Angel Tree.
Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up here. This subject is near and dear to my heart. I love Angel Tree. Donations go beyond the walls of a prison to reach the family. And that's the heart of Angel Tree, is those kids that are out there who are away from their parents during this time. This is a connection point for them to come together and just feel the heart and the love of their parent that's incarcerated.
All over America, including where you live, Angel Tree volunteers are racing the calendar to use your donations and connect incarcerated parents with Angel Tree staff who help arrange for delivery of a Christmas gift, a Bible, and a personalized message from their parent in prison to bless children on December 25th. And it all starts when you go to DennisPrager.com, click on the Angel Tree banner at the top of the page, to make your tax-deductible donation. But the blessings can only happen if you step up and support Dennis's annual Angel Tree campaign with your donation of $25 to support one prisoner's child, or $50 to bless two kids. You do the math and see how many kids you can help, but please act today. There are only 24 days left until Christmas. Just go to DennisPrager.com and click on the Angel Tree banner to donate. $125 will bless 5 children, or you can sponsor any number of kids for a one-time contribution of just $25 each. You can call right now. You can phone in your gift at 888-206-2801. That's 888-206-2801, or just go to DennisPrager.com. Again, click on the Angel Tree banner at the top of the page. With only 24 days until Christmas is here, please don't wait. Do it today. You know, something just hit me. This is the real America. You understand that I'm a Christian sitting behind the microphone of a Jewish man whom I adore by the name of Dennis Prager, and I'm just reading an ad on Prison Fellowship, a Christian organization. That's the real America. That's the real America that the left wants you to forget exists. That's the real America. Callers, I'm going to you shortly here. Let me just get through this part. Let me close up this, and then I want to get to the surveillance state that exists within the United States of America. Oh, and by the way, let me just make a quick mention of this. Hey, so there's a railroad strike that's looming. Apparently, the Senate has come to some type of agreement with that. Good time for Republicans to speak up and say they're for the working man and woman. Wouldn't it be? Pretty good time to hear from the leadership, not just about the railroad strike in and of itself, but I'm thinking about messaging. I'm thinking about narrative. I'm thinking about people that are fighting for the average American that's freaking struggling to pay their bills or to buy groceries or to put food in their car. A good time for an alternate party, right, to speak up after the Democrat Party that claims to be for the working man stabs the unions in the back. I'm not a big union guy. I'll be frank with you here, but I do see opportunity, and I love hardworking Americans, regardless of whether or not they're in a union or not. So this would be a fantastic time. I'm just thinking if we had leadership in the Republican Party, it would be a fantastic time to say, I stand with you. What the Democrats have done with you is wrong, right? This would be the time, lying before the election in order to win election, just like Biden lied about the student loan debt, and now that's being fast tracked into the at the Supreme Court, and they'll hear the case as early as February, I believe. This would be a great time, Republicans, to steal more of the working class away from the Democrat Party. Great time. Trump did it. You should try it. You should try it. Maybe your hatred for Trump is blinding you to such a degree that you don't know how to do the right thing for working class Americans. It's absolutely insane what hatred can do. Wing Zhang fire is only one of several, again, tragedies that these people have seen. I talked about the lady that jumped to her death. Other things that have hurt these people, it's an economy issue too. The economy in China isn't what you are led to believe. They are struggling in China as well. And the young people there have had enough. We'll talk about that, and then I'll be back with your calls. Glenn, Maria, Mark, Stephanie, Art, Sam, I'll get to you next. Dennis Prager Show. I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for Dennis Prager. David, Mark, Art, I see you out there. I will get to you shortly. Just a reminder of what we're talking about here. Again, we are seeing a police state develop inside of the United States, much like China has been experiencing for quite some time, but specifically under 10 years of the leadership of Xi Jinping. Things are starting to occur in the United States that I thought perhaps we would not see, or at least not see in my lifetime, but they are starting to occur here. The last thing I talked about, and again, Carlos, I'll get to you shortly, so please don't go anywhere. Some of you have been waiting very patiently, and I certainly do appreciate that. All right, but I was talking about the sex trafficking issue. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice for Republicans to come out and make that an issue that's occurring at the borders, the things that are happening there? Hat tip AM greatness. Whistleblower, American tax dollars are helping HHS put migrant children into the hands of sex traffickers. The Biden regime is knowingly participating in the sex trafficking of minor children. This, according to a volunteer who has assisted the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in processing unaccompanied migrant children at its emergency intake site in Pomona, California. The whistleblower, someone by the name of Tara Lee Rodas, went to Project Veritas. Thank God for James O'Keefe and Project Veritas with her firsthand account of how the U.S. government's corrupt child sponsorship program actually exploits and endangers vulnerable unaccompanied minors. Rodas said that for the past 19 years, she has been employed at the Council of the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency, which combats fraud, waste, and abuse in federal programs. She says, and I quote, "We know that children have been trafficked through the program." This is what she told James O'Keefe of Project Veritas. She says they don't have a legal presence. The tax dollars of people, and I'm quoting as well, who are listening are paying to put children in the hands of criminals, she declared. HHS, listen to this, according to the whistleblower, is knowingly sending dozens of unaccompanied minors to the same addresses. She says, and I quote, "We have 44 unaccompanied children at one address. We have 25 unaccompanied children at another address." Guys, what do you think is going on? What do you think the Biden administration is allowing to occur at our border? She says it's just strange that HHS knows that there's a lot of children going to one area, and yet they're not doing anything. The whistleblower added, she said, at the very least, HHS should conduct a mandatory home study, quote unquote, before they send one more child to a suspicious address. Rodas noted that, quote, the Biden administration has relaxed a lot of the stringent vetting by creating these additional field guidances, and there's a focus on move the children, as she says, as opposed to place the children in safe homes. So move the children as opposed to place them in safe homes. What happens when you move children, but you don't place them in safe homes and they're unaccompanied minors leaving their countries and coming to a strange country? Sex trafficking. That's what happens. And the Biden administration is apparently all for it, lest they would say something. Let me take a couple of calls of people who've been waiting for quite some time, and then I will finally get to evidence of the police state that exists inside of these United States of America. Let's go to Mark. Mark has been waiting patiently in Minneapolis, although he disagrees with my premise. Mark, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show. You've got the mic.
Carl, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Hey, I've been listening to conservatives for over 20 years. And I mean to tell you, I have not heard a single conservative, whether pundit or politician, get it right. The Republican Party is not weak. They're not spineless. That's a load of crap. They're complicit. The Republican Party has held power, majority power, for most of the last 70 years. And what you see is complicity with the leftists. That's why we continue to lurch left. They're complicit. There are two classes in this country. There's the people with the power, and there's the people. These guys don't give a rat's behind which name is at the top of the board. They're sharing the power, and we're being had. That leads me to one of three conclusions. They're either stupid, they're liars, or they're not conservatives.
Mark, listen, I don't disagree with you. In fact, unless I didn't explicitly say the word complicit, I really thought I said that at the beginning of the program because I often talk about that on my local show. And I actually have heard some Republicans talk about it, but I don't disagree with your points. I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Thank you. I do listen to your podcast, Carl. I think
you're
Mark. You're great. I think you're great. But you led off with saying your main point was you kept stressing how weak and spineless they are, and that's a bunch of rubbish.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay. All right, Carl. Thank you.
Fair enough. All right. I appreciate the call, Mark. Appreciate you being out there. Okay, they're complicit. I don't disagree with that. If I didn't make that clear, I certainly want to make it clear. I believe they are complicit. Listen, I do believe they're weak too, and perhaps their weakness led to complicity. But I totally understand the point, and I don't disagree with that point. Let me go to Art. Is in Salt Lake City, Utah. Art, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show. You've got the mic.
Okay, I've got a question. What was it that Kanye West did to get him deplatformed?
Well, what do you
think?
I'm
a little bit confused about that. What?
What do you think it was?
Well, there was that flap at Mar-a-Lago with that anti-Semite, but would it be that something like that?
Well, apparently, what's happened with Kanye West, Art, and listen, I appreciate the call. Apparently, what's happened with Kanye West is he's doubled and tripled down. He's went on to Tim Pool's podcast and espoused more anti-Semitic views. He's done the same on. Oh, good God! What is the name of the guy that just got sued beyond the Alex Jones. Thank you, Sean. He just went on to Alex Jones' program and basically stated that he likes Nazis or something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, guys. I gotta be honest with you when it comes to, and as again, not as if I'm not being. Let me just clarify. Let me make it emphatically clear: racism, evil. Anti-Semitism, evil. It's as simple as that. I'm a little disturbed that Kanye West has people around him that don't care about this man enough to hug him, to pull him aside and say, Kanye, let me talk to you. Kanye, stop doing this. Sometimes I wonder if Kanye is trying to garner more attention by doubling down on this hatred and this bigotry and garner more attention and basically cave the Republican Party. I mean, obviously he set Trump up with Nick Fuentes and all of that kind of stuff, Milo Yiannopoulos, all of these people that can't stand the Republican Party and want it absolutely destroyed. So sometimes I wonder if Kanye West has psychological issues. I guess your first initial thought might be that he has issues, or could it be also that I don't know? In part, this is part of a game, part of a screw the establishment. Regardless, I want to make it emphatically clear that what he's saying is sick, evil, and wrong. I just wish that people cared enough about him to come around him and say, Kanye, what are you doing, man? It's sick to me that he exists in an industry where everyone will look at him, everyone will watch him, everyone will critique him, but nobody in his inner circle will come to the guy and say, or at least seemingly, maybe there is, and I don't know, but at least seemingly say, Kanye, what are you doing, man? What you're doing is wrong. Take a break. Get out of the spotlight. Let's just address some issues, whether they're mental, whether they're spiritual, whether it's whatever it may be. That guy needs some real people around him instead of the moochers that are taking advantage of him and helping him to spew this evil, twisted, anti-Semitic nonsense.
Lately I've been feeling this way. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Anyone who wants to protect America should also want to protect Israel. Ambassador Robert O'Brien, former national security advisor in the Trump administration, explains exactly why. See the new video at PragerU.com where we teach what should be taught.
All right, welcome back to the Dennis Prager Show. I'm your guest host, Carl Jackson, sitting in for Dennis Prager. The number to call in, 1-8-PRAGER-776. That is 1-8-PRAGER-776. Guys, just a reminder, please be sure to support PragerU.com. You can go to them at any given time and donate to PragerU.com. If you want to hear Dennis Prager Show uninterrupted, you can go to PragerTopia.com. That is PragerTopia.com. And of course, I encourage you to read his columns. They come out every Tuesday at DennisPrager.com. That is DennisPrager.com. Gain some wisdom and some knowledge and some great perspective from the man himself, Dennis Prager. And also, something that's released every Tuesday, that is the Dennis and Julie podcast at SalemPodcastNetwork.com. Their latest episode is on faux vulnerability. So Dennis and Julie hash that out. They delve into people's lack of curiosity, how Dennis loves his stereo system. Julie discusses her trip back to Boston and her post-college adjustments and more. So you can go to the SalemPodcastNetwork.com. Check out the Dennis and Julie podcast. You have two intellectuals having great conversation from two generations, and it's fascinating. Oh, that's right. You can watch it on YouTube as well. So YouTube.com, the Dennis and Julie podcast. So make sure that you guys check that out, por favor. You will not regret it, all right? Now, again, the number to call in, 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Let me just give you some news items. I got a lot of news to get to in a very short period of time. And David and Brent, don't go anywhere. I see you guys out there. I'll take your calls shortly here, but election interference. TikTok accounts operated by CCP push divisive videos targeting U.S. politicians. You don't say. Also, Biden DHS has no plan after Title 42 ends, says source. We all know that. It's going to be a floodgate of illegal immigrants. The Republicans are going to need the power of the purse to force this guy's hand and the Democrats' hand in the years 2023 and 2024. Otherwise, they will be complicit. Thank you. Was it Mark in Minneapolis? that called in, and you used the right word. I stand corrected. And also, Biden signs a bill to avoid a railroad strike, but he shuts out the railway workers. So, wow, isn't that fascinating? That's who Joe Biden is. I promised you I would get to these headlines. Let me just share this real quick before I get into the evidence that exists that America is already we already have a surveillance state. The left tried to lie when Dinesh D'Souza came out with 2,000 mules, and they even went so far as to jail Catherine Engelbrecht and Greg Phillips of True the Vote. It's absolutely insane, but there is a surveillance state that exists inside of the United States, and I'm going to tell you about it. But first, rigorous hat tip just the news. Rigorous international study of N95 masks upends the federal COVID narrative. This by Greg Piper at Just the News. So the CDC took nearly 2 years to formally recognize distinctions between masks for mitigating COVID-19 spread, finally saying in January that cloth masks offer, quote, the least protection, and N95 respirators, which meet strict federal standards, the highest, close quote. The agency's slight nod to the largely symbolic value of cloth masks, Piper writes, predominantly worn in school settings, followed months of calls by one-time White House COVID advisors, among others, to promote masks actually designed to stop aerosolized transmission. It also spurred a run on N95s, sending prices skyward. But a new peer-reviewed randomized control trial of N95s versus surgical masks considered the mid-range of protection is undermining the late federal pivot to higher quality masks and calls to reimpose mask mandates in schools, among other settings. Published in the Annals of Internal Medicine this week and led by researchers at Canada's McMaster University, Canada, the study found no statistically significant difference in protection between the two kinds of masks in healthcare facilities in Canada, in Israel, in Pakistan, and in Egypt. Funders included the Canadian government and the World Health Organization, which, unlike the U.S., opposes masking young children. Can you believe that? The World Health Organization opposes that, and we don't? And also found, quote, no evidence, close quote, face coverings made a difference against influenza in a 2019 study. So it doesn't matter if you're wearing a one of the regular masks or what have you, or the N95, they don't work. They don't work to stop the spread of this virus. A virus is going to do what a virus is going to do. You can stop virtue signaling. I've just given a lot of people out there some freedom. I hope you take advantage of it. Epic Times, hat tip. Vaccinated people make up majority of COVID-19 deaths. This according to new CDC data. This is data that Fauci won't share with you, or Rochelle Walensky. Data from the CDC and prevention showed that vaccinated and boosted people made up most of the COVID-19 deaths in August. Of the total 6,512 deaths recorded in August of 2022 of this year, 58.6% of the deaths were attributed to vaccinated or boosted people, and seem to be a sign of a growing trend where vaccinated individuals are increasingly becoming the majority in COVID-19 mortalities. In January of 2022, COVID-19 mortalities in the vaccinated was still the minority at 41% of the data that related to vaccinated or boosted individuals. However, analysis of the CDC data from June and July showed over 50% of deaths were being reported in vaccinated individuals, with 62 and 61% reported respectively. If we can no longer say this, according to Cynthia Cox, the vice president of the Kaiser Family Foundation, we can no longer say that this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, close quote. And again, I've shared with you before on air the V-Safe data that exists, not the VAERS report, that showed that 33% of Americans that took the jab out of 10.1 million or 10.2 million had significant adverse effects immediately upon taking the jab. Now, let me clarify. Okay, not necessarily immediately, but within hours, some within days, some within a couple of weeks of getting the jab. They didn't have problems that they had before. So I'm not going to be able to delve into those stories as deep as I would like, but I mentioned them, and I wanted to make sure that I got into them. And again, callers, I'll get to you shortly here. Okay. How a secret Google geofence warrant helped catch the Capitol riot mob. Guys, this is why I am so thankful for Elon Musk. I never thought I would say this. That guy is a godsend. I can't stand EVs because of the narrative that exists about them. They're not good for the environment, contrary to popular belief. I'm telling you, I believe this guy's a godsend. Here's the summary from Wired. Court documents suggest the FBI has been using controversial geofence search warrants at a scale not publicly seen before, collecting account information and location data on hundreds of devices inside the U.S. Capitol. Now, this is a left-wing publication, all right, guys? So brace yourself, all right? So inside the U.S. Capitol during a deadly invasion, they call it, by a right-wing mob on January 6th. I'll get into this more after the break.
Hey folks, Dennis Prager here, one of my favorite people in America. You know I don't exaggerate when I say that. I don't say it often. It's Carl Jackson. This man is as good as he is intelligent, and he's as deep as he is alive. We're lucky to have him. I'm lucky that he's sitting in for me. I'll see you Monday, but now, here's Carl Jackson.
Hey, and we are blessed to have Dennis Prager. Absolutely, no doubt. I adore the man, and thank you, Dennis Prager and Sue. Thank you for the opportunity to sit in. Alan Estrin. I have Sean McConnell in my ear. Lou's got my back here in Orlando. Suzette is on the lines. Just real quick, and I'll go to you callers if you can make it really quick, just so that you understand. Apple stood on the side of an authoritarian, Xi Jinping and CCP. Don't tell me that a surveillance state doesn't exist. Don't tell me that the left aren't authoritarians. They absolutely are. This guy could have sided with the American people. I'm sorry, he could have sided with the dissidents in China. He did not. Do you think this guy will really side with him? I do not trust him. That makes Elon Musk all the more valuable. This is a man that appears to be a free speech absolutist, and for that, I'm grateful. Let me go to Brent. Brent, we have a very short period of time, but you got the mic if you can make it quick. I appreciate you being out there.
Yes, a holy and illuminating Christmas, Brother Carl.
Hey, thank you, Brent.
Please don't call yourself an angry black man when what you are is a blessed, righteously angry Christian American man. And please keep exposing the Luciferian left who sadistically stalk America wearing Marxist murder masks beneath which only pedophile predators and disciples of the devil like Nazi Newsom in California and Jew hater Joe seduce equally satanic sleepers like Mitt Romney and Liz Cheney in wantonly wicked Washington.
Man, thank you, Brent. Appreciate you being out there. You know a story I didn't get to. I just want to read the headline. Documents reveal Senate Democrat pressured IRS DOJ to target conservative groups. This is Lois Lerner part due, except worse all over again. The surveillance state is here. Let's go to Charles really quick. How much time do we have here, Sean? Okay, Charles, we got about 30 seconds. If you can make it quick, please.
Yeah, I just think Kanye West should be able to say whatever he wants. And in an open, honest discussion, the truth will always win out. So it's better for everybody.
Yeah, you know what? Here's the deal, Charles. I don't disagree with you. If I gave you the impression that I do, I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I don't like what everyone has to say, but I understand, too, that there are consequences that comes with that. My point was I thought more of a moral point. Where the hell are the people around him to give this guy a hug and to teach this guy about what true hate and true love is? It's definitely not anti-Semitism. It's definitely not racism. I think that's sad. I think that's sick. I think racism is evil. I think it divides people. And I wonder if Kanye West was just kind of doubling down for more attention or for some other nefarious purpose. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you being out there. And until next time, do not grow weary doing good. Carl Jackson, Dennis Prager, thank you. I love you. God bless you guys.
Dennis Prager here. Thanks for listening to the Daily Dennis Prager Podcast. To hear the entire 3 hours of my radio show, commercial-free, every single day, become a member of Pragertopia. You'll also get access to 15 years' worth of archives, as well as the daily show prep. Subscribe at Pragertopia.com.